Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Poppin. Welcome back to Rise Horror Movie Reviews. Today's review has been highly voted, and you want me to review this. 1984's controversial but cult classic, Silent Night, Deadly Night, released in November of 1984, but only lasted just 1 week in theaters before angry parents and teachers got pulled. Now, I don't want to get to the controversy, but I'll get to it later, but let's talk about the movie. So the movie begins in 1974, where the Chapman family, namely the, the movie's character, Billy Chapman, along with his brother Ricky and their parents, they headed to a mental facility in Utah to see Grandpa Chapman, played by Will Hare. Grandpa Chapman's catatonic, so he couldn't hear. But when the parents and Ricky are not in the room, he talks to Billy. He talks to Billy like a possessed animatronic. Am I getting like Child's Play vibes, Five Nights at Freddy's vibes, or Willy's Wonderland vibes? I can't tell. But he starts spinning War on Christmas towards little Billy. Like this, Christmas Eve is the most scariest time of the year. But after that, when Billy's parents came back, Grandpa Chapman he immediately Toy Story's back into an animation. Get? He just had to pull a full Toy Story in that movie. Anyways, elsewhere, in a convenience store, turns out a man dressed up as Santa Claus came into a convenience store and he started to rob the clerk at gunpoint. When he fired at the clerk was knocked down a poorly placed shelf of chips. Who puts chips in the back of a counter? Like, what the hell? But that's not all. The criminal Santa started stealing the money, but he put 2 more rounds into the clerk. On the way back home, the Chapman family saw Santa Claus. Well, the criminal Santa from the convenience store. But after that, the criminal Santa just ruthlessly murdered Billy's parents, leaving both Billy and his brother Ricky in orphans. Plus, they were taken to an orphanage, which were led by the rude nun of all, Mother Superior. God, I hate that character. Anyways, the nun's Mother Superior did not help Billy get over his childhood trauma, not only forcing him to sit on Santa's lap, in which it just traumatized Billy further. But years later, in 1984, Billy grew up and he started working at a toy store called Ira's Toys. See, Ira's Toys is actually named after the producer, Ira Barmack. So when Christmas rolled in, Billy Chapman was forced to dress up as a Santa Claus. But compared to now, like all the Christmas parties that we get in December of every year versus back then in the 80s, man, times have changed. But however, when Billy sees a female coworker getting assaulted by a male coworker, this was the moment Billy Chapman would snap. Terror would shortly follow on Billy. Billy just ruthlessly took out all of his coworkers, and after clocking out, Sister Margaret came back and, oh boy, she screamed. But that's not all. We got a lot more messed up stuff. But hey, in one scene of the movie, we got a nice cameo from Don Shanks. Now, if you don't know who is Don Shanks is an icon. He plays Michael Myers in Halloween Part 5, just 5 years before it. He plays the father dressed up as Santa. And not to mention Don Shanks also played the fisherman in the god-awful I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. Pretty weak conclusion to the Last Summer trilogy, I would say. Anyways, back to this movie. Elsewhere, Billy's brother Ricky, now somehow a kid, he was getting ready for Christmas. Until, one of the cops, Officer Barnes, found what appears to be Santa, in which he kind of assumed it was Billy, but it wasn't Billy. After shooting the Santa, turns out that's not Billy. It was Father O'Brien, who was slated to be the orphanage's Santa Claus for that year. Unfortunately, he couldn't hear the cops' warnings because he was deaf. Damn! Officer Barnes just shot a Santa and a priest at once? That definitely gets him on the naughty list. So, after apologizing, he got axed in the chest by Billy. So when Billy was ready to execute Mother Superior, he was stopped. Kind of sad to see Billy go. But his final words were, "You're safe now. Santa Claus is gone." What a traumatic way for Billy to go out. Then, when Ricky, Billy's brother, just looked at Mother Superior, he just said, "Naughty." This ultimately led to Part 2. That's where we focus on Billy's brother Ricky, who will later get 2 more movies of him. The sequel, which is Part 2, and the third film, in which he He looks like a Venture Bros character. Now, that was the plot of the movie. Oh, wait, we forgot to mention the controversy and fun facts. Now, this movie itself, it came out the same weekend as A Nightmare on Elm Street, but the movie itself had sparked a lot of controversy, namely because the depiction of Santa Claus being a killer, which sparked a quarrel of parents and teachers. They protested cinemas, and they protested a cinema in Milwaukee, even sang Christmas carols. And like that, TriStar Pictures just pulled the movie out of cinemas. And I guess without any good, I guess you can't make money without any controversy. So they decided to re-release it a year later, holding back on the violence. So yeah, not only that, famous film critics like Siskel, Ebert, and Laren Bolton, they all threw their hats in the ring. Siskel and Ebert say this. They just say that the movie that the filmmakers made was blood money. That's what I would say whenever a director makes a horror movie that ruins our childhood. So yeah, feel free to go check out my Twitter page, and you'll see my reviews on both Blood Honey and the Mean One. You know what I mean. Next up is Larry Mullen's review. He just gave it 0 stars and asking, "What's next? The Easter Bunny as a child killer?" Although an Easter horror movie, oh wait, Critters 2 already has done that, so we can't rule that out. So yeah, Larry Moulton really condemned the film. I guess most people just didn't like the idea of a revered childhood icon being a murderer. But that's not all. Due to the controversy, the movie itself became a cult classic, and thus, the movie itself has spawned 4 sequels and a loose remake in 2012. And now there's talks of a 7th film coming soon. So I might as well get some tickets for that. But still, the movie itself did well for just 1 week before getting pulled by angry PTA members due to the controversy. And that's not all. This is quite a cult classic movie to see. I mean, as you can tell, it's actually true. The PTA back in 1984 actually got pulled. So yeah, y'all gotta remember that back in the 80s we had stuff like this, the controversy surrounding this movie, and Sam Raimi getting obscenity charges for The Evil Dead. It was more of a moral panic back then. You gotta remember that. Thus concludes my review on Silent Night Deadly Night, a controversial but cult classic Christmas horror movie to be watched. I mean, as long as you don't watch it with your family, like what happened back then. So overall, this concludes my review. Next up, I'm going to review on Wolf Creek next, and after that, Urban Legend. When it comes to my collection. Until then, bye guys. Stay poppin', stay safe, and take care out there. Peace. See you on the next movie review.